Good morning, and welcome to Connections Radio Show, where we talk about ideas that matter. I'm glad you've made the connection and are with us today. I'm Lori Fitz, your host, and the goal of our show is to explore a wide range of topics that challenge us to see ourselves, our community, and the world around us in ways that get us thinking, exploring, imagining, processing, and connected. We also look for, in our conversations, the inspiration to do just a bit more because we've made the connection. We've been going through a lot of tough months, and how to process our feelings and anxiety can be really hard to do. Each day brings on new uncertainties and issues, and if you have young children in your life, figuring out how to talk and connect with them can also be stressful. How do we do it? What can be our guide? How should we support them, especially when sometimes we just feel depleted and don't know what to say and don't know what to do? Kids may be acting out. They could be withdrawn or sad or angry, maybe even a little manic. And we feel overwhelmed and needing some help in how to figure out the new normal and how can we give kids a chance to be kids? Have fun, be happy, but yet at the same time be able to process what's going on around them. So our topic today is how to talk with your kids about how they're feeling and how to support kids to build social and emotional skills that will help them in their journey to be happy, healthy kids. And we have Kirsten Mickish, who is the co-founder and CEO of Connect Human. And she'll be talking with us today about a lot of things, but also about her first product, Connection Zoo, how to feel well, be well, and do well. Welcome, Kirsten.
Thank you, Lori. Thanks so much.
So glad you're with us today.
I am very excited to be with you as well. Yeah, you talk about what's going on in the world, and not only are kids really feeling the stress of all of that that's happening, adults are as well. Mm-hmm. So many people I've talked to, and myself included, have been on such an emotional roller coaster. And, so our ability to really understand what's going on for ourselves and be able to manage that in healthy ways is so critical. And then when you think about kids, many of them haven't yet developed those skills. So it's really, really important that we're paying attention to this.
And there's so many things that are hitting all of us at the same time. With COVID-19, the kids are home. What happened to their school? Right. What's up with older relatives? Why can't they be with them like they used to? They're homebound. Maybe they're not seeing their friends. Then they watch TV or they hear their parents or they hear about, some tragedies that had to do with the police. What's that about? Yeah. And how do we talk about race? I mean, it's always hard to talk about race. And then it's really important on how to talk about these things with kids. And a stress can be impacted by not talking with them as well, which I think is something that your program opens up, how to talk.
Yeah, and that is such an important thing to consider and to think about. When kids don't have words to express what they're feeling, what's going on for them, they will act out, shut down, or say, my tummy hurts, or some other body part hurts. Mm-hmm. And it's hard for us, when they're unable to express what's going on, it's hard for us to support them. It's hard for us to help them work through that. And so we see the behaviors and oftentimes feel compelled to address that behavior. But what's really important to understand is beneath every behavior is a feeling, and beneath every feeling is a need. And so we need to get beneath those behaviors to have conversation about the feelings so we can identify the need. And that's where we can really step in and help support them in whatever they need.
So your Connection Zoo teaches a vocabulary about how to talk about feelings.
Yeah, so Connection Zoo is a play-based learning tool or system that teaches kids social and emotional skills. And we use animal images and fun facts to create an association between each of the animals and some aspect of the social and emotional experience. So as kids get to know their animals, they develop a vocabulary that helps them more easily express what they're feeling, how they're thinking, to be able to ask for help. And so with Connection Zoo, we have created it in a way that uses play to kind of open the door. So kids love animals, or most of them love animals. So that's kind of the initial invitation to engage with Connection Zoo. But then they also, of course, love to play. I think it was Mr. Rogers that said play is the work, or play is the language of kids, right? So it's a really awesome way to connect with kids, first and foremost, and to create those strong emotional bonds, but then to be able to teach them how to start to identify and express what's going on for them. And the ideal situation is that you use it on a regular basis to build a practice. So maybe it's every night before bed or at dinner, because we want the practice of and the ability to express what we're feeling and how we're doing, and to ask for help, to be a habit. We want that to be a part of just how we are, how we live.
And I think people in general, like animals, kids do too, but you used an example with me the other day that I just loved. Yes. In terms of a hummingbird. And who doesn't love watching a hummingbird and I've got a hummingbird feeder in front of my kitchen window, and it is so lovely, but you can see those wing beats so quickly. And it's such a wonderful representation of anxiety when things are all fluttering. And if you can share with your daughter or your son or their friends or your nieces, nephews, or grandkids, are you feeling like a hummingbird? And really listening into their reaction, I have to believe, can produce a really powerful conversation.
Exactly. And, we've it's something that kids can relate to, and so to be able to say, I feel like a hummingbird right now, or my heart is beating like a hummingbird. The fun fact for hummingbird, which helps make that association, is that a hummingbird's heart can beat up to 1,260 times a minute. So kids seem to love fun facts. they like to collect them. And so that then sticks with them, that, oh yeah, heartbeat, fast heartbeat, when I feel like that, that's hummingbird.
Can you give me another example of another animal and a good conversation about that animal?
Yeah, so I'll use the pufferfish.
Okay.
So with the pufferfish, if you think about a pufferfish, when they puff up, it's to keep enemies away, or to keep threats away, and to be able to escape. And actually, that one came from this wonderful kid that we met, who, when we talked to him about Connection Zoo, he is autistic, and we were sharing with him about Connection Zoo, and he said he had some ideas for us. And one of them was, he said, either a porcupine or a pufferfish. And he said, because, sometimes you just want to escape from people. You just want to either kind of push them, or maybe you don't want to push them away, but you're kind of pushing them away. You put your spines out, right? And he said, and that's not healthy. That's not helpful. But sometimes we feel like that. And so that helps us talk to kids about when you feel that way, talk about what's going on for you. Where do you feel that in your body, and what's happening in your mind? And what are some other, when you're feeling those ways, are there other things that you can do instead of kind of pushing people away or trying to escape? Or maybe you escape for a short while and then come back. He also gave us another idea, which we incorporated, and it's a shark, great white shark. And he said, sometimes it gets really tough. I get overwhelmed, and I just feel like I can't keep going. And he said, if sharks stop swimming, they sink.
Huh.
And so we have to remember to be like a shark and keep swimming. We have to keep moving forward. So there's a couple examples there, and it's funny with the pufferfish, I was having a conversation with an adult, a professional adult, and we were talking about some of the cards, and later in the conversation he goes, Kirsten, I realized I've really kind of been acting like a pufferfish at work. And I think I need to pay attention to that. So, we've had adults tell us that, they play with their kids with this, but they've said, but I think I need to talk about my animals too.
Well, what a joy it must have been to collect these animals for your zoo, and collect this for really good communication exercises. And my guess is that as you see other animals, you go, oh, we could have that one in the future. Well, that would be kind of fun too. Now, I want the audience to know that if you're curious about finding out more about what this wonderful game is, you can go to connectionzoo.com. And in our next segment, we're going to be finding out a little bit more about how it got created. A wonderful story about Kirsten and her son. But we have about a minute. You want to share a little bit of your own personal experience of why this was important for you personally, Kirsten.
Yeah, thank you. Well, growing up, I experienced a lot of anxiety, both generalized and social. And I also had some strong perfectionism tendencies. And so I did everything I could to make sure nobody ever knew that I was scared or having a panic attack, that what was going on for me, because I thought that they would think of me as weak or broken. Might find out I wasn't perfect. And so I became a great pretender. I was really, really good at hiding all of that. And the one thing that I developed was a great deal of courage, because I had to step into situations that terrified me to pretend that everything was okay. And unfortunately, I had all these people around me that would have been supportive and would have been helpful, but I never asked for help. So I spent many, many years through childhood and into my young adult life feeling scared and alone and thinking I had to do this by myself. And so as I learned to start to talk about how I was feeling, and as I learned to start to ask for help, as I learned to admit I don't know how to do this or I can't figure this out, it was like this big release, and I was able to not only enjoy life a little more, but reduce my stress, so from a well-being perspective, but also perform better. And when I say perform, but whether that was, in all aspects of my life. So, for me to be able to bring something to kids that can help them not feel like they have to do this alone is really important to me.
And we'll learn more about Kirsten's Connection Zoo coming up and how it got started, and some things for you all to think about. And when you're dealing with kids especially, and perhaps your own feelings about what animal are you and how might you take care of that animal. So we'll be right back after just a few announcements, but stay with us. We're going to make the connection at Connection Zoo. Welcome back to Connections Radio Show. I'm your host, Lori Fitz, and today we're talking about how to support kids, especially how to communicate with them, how to build social and emotional skills that'll help them in their journey to be happy and healthy, and give you some guidance on how to do that. And we've got Kirsten Mickish, who is the co-founder and CEO of Connect Human. And her first product that she's been launching and doing a beautiful job is Connection Zoo. It's how to feel well, be well, do well. And she developed this with her son. So not only is it a good way of connecting with your kids, but in your case, Kirsten, you actually created a game with your kid. Tell me about that.
Yeah. Well, he actually is the brain behind it and the designer behind it. When he was going to college, one of the things that he kept hearing about from a lot of his friends was the level, and experiencing himself, was the level of stress and anxiety that they had. But one thing that really caught his attention was the level of social anxiety. And he is probably the most social person that I've ever met. And when he heard about how much that was affecting his friends, he thought, how can people not be experiencing the joy that I experience in the relationship, in relationship with others? And so as he did a little bit more research on not just social anxiety, but more broadly, he thought, what if, we all need to learn the skills to be able to cope and manage, because life throws stuff at us all the time. But why would I, if I were going to design a product, why would I start with adults? Why wouldn't I start with kids when they're in their, really important development stages, so that they can build a practice for life? And when he designed this product, and I was in the process of thinking about leaving corporate America, we started talking. Well, maybe we should try to do something with this. And so we spent some time both on the idea of working together and building a business together, and also around development of the product, and decided to go for it. And so, all of 2019 and now into 2020, this is what we've been working for, and they're, now out there. It's now out there and available, but it's been a really cool way to spend time and build a different kind of relationship with my son.
And for the folks that may have joined us and didn't hear about what the product is, it's a game, and it allows you to do some meeting and greeting and playing and practicing using animal cards, and being able to identify feelings and learning fun facts to know and tell about an animal that helps you create a vocabulary, an animal vocabulary for feelings, and allows you to go and dig a little bit deeper. Can you share a little bit about how it may work, what a parent would do when that package comes to their door? What are they supposed to do? How do they use it?
Yeah, well, one of the things that we've heard from a few customers is when the package arrives and they open it up, the design is pretty, visually appealing. And a few of our customers have said the kids have grabbed it and wanted to just start, touching and feeling and looking. And we're like, great, do that first. Just let them get familiar with them. There's a special coating on them that really makes them soothing to the touch. So just let them get acquainted with the animals and start to, mess around with the fun facts and so on. So that's the first thing, and we kind of call that meet and greet, right? And then we offer 11 different ways to play with Connection Zoo, and some of them are more conversation-based types of play, and others are more game play, where you can earn points and so on. And then we encourage our customers to try the different ways and see what works best for them and create their own ways, because ultimately this is about whatever works for you. And so play is kind of that second piece. And then the third is to practice. And as I mentioned in the first segment, ideally, what you want to do is make talking about your feelings and trying different ways to manage them effectively a practice, a habit. And so finding ways to build conversation, to build play with Connection Zoo into daily routines is something that we encourage. And it's really easy to take on the go. You can take them in the car, you can throw them in a purse, etc. So that makes it easy to be able to do that.
And I love the concept of taking care of your animals is really taking care of your feelings. So as you anthropomorphize your this little dog becomes, how do you take care of your dog is really how to take care of you. And sometimes it's hard to know how to do that, but if we have an image, especially an image that we love, and we understand, how cats are and dogs are and birds are, and it gives us insight as to what we might be feeling, and then it gives us an empowerment to be taking care of them. And it's okay and it's important to take care of the feelings, which I think is a really strong message. I mean, sometimes people are taught not to cry and be brave and, stuff your feelings. I mean, which is probably the worst thing you can do to a child.
the way we talk about this is that kids are, we invite them to be a zookeeper. And so as a Connection Zoo zookeeper, your responsibilities are to know your animals, to talk about your animals, to take care of your animals, and invite supportive people to visit your zoo to hear about your animals. And to your point, as we take care of our Connection Zoo animals, we're taking care of ourselves. And, you know, one of the things that a lot of us have been taught, not necessarily directly, but certainly indirectly, is to not feel or not feel in front of people, right? And there's so much evidence that tells us that the most healthy thing to do is feel your feelings, no matter what feeling it is, right? All feelings are normal. All feelings are valid. And if we really sit with those feelings and we kind of play with them and get curious and spend a little time with them, they teach us things. They teach us about ourselves. And when they show up the next time, we're a little bit more, we know them a little bit better. We know how they might show up. We know how we might play with them in a way that might be healthier.
And when we take care of animals, we really cherish them, right? And so it feels like we're teaching kids that they can cherish their feelings and that there isn't a judgment of a good or a bad animal. They all need attention. And when they don't get attention, that's when it gets hard.
Yes, yeah. It's when we don't give them attention, they just keep coming back.
Right.
Bothering us.
Bigger and scarier.
Yeah. Now, what I will tell you is, and kind of back to my story, is I became really good at not when I pretended to be okay so that others would think I was okay. I had to learn how to kind of deny, how to avoid my feelings and deny myself those feelings. And what I learned is while I was trying to hide and ignore those feelings that didn't feel good, so I wasn't feeling them fully, I also realized I wasn't feeling the good feelings fully either because I was so guarded around my feelings. And so one of the things that's been really helpful with the development of Connection Zoo is me getting in touch with my own animals and deciding that I'm going to really practice more than I ever have feeling all my feelings that show up. And that was back in at the end of last year that I committed that to myself. And so I've had a lot of practice the last few months, as you can imagine. And so many people I've talked to, when I've shared with them, you know, there were a few days where I cried and cried and cried, and they'd say, "Thank you so much for sharing that with me. I've been crying too, and I thought maybe it was just me." And I'm like, "Oh, no, not you. No. Nope, and good for you for crying."
And isn't that great to model for kids that we can all experience our feelings? Because sometimes if kids, they can be hard to read. You don't know quite where they're at, but if there's a way to get them to be able to talk about it, we can better support them. And you really give some really interesting techniques and practices to help discover what it is that we can do to help meet their needs. Because we may think we're meeting their needs because we're kind of guessing at what's going on and doing our best, but we may miss the mark completely. And having something that allows us to go, I feel like a hummingbird right now, and I understand you feel like a puffer fish. So how do we get these two animals to kind of figure out how to be with each other and be okay with puffer fish and hummingbird, and be able to even have kids ask, have them support us when we don't know.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you said something really important around kind of what we model, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's not, what we have to remember as we're thinking about how we are with kids, particularly when they need our support, is we're not there to fix them.
Right.
It's not about fixing your kid. It's about partnering with them to understand that need beneath their feeling so that we can figure out how can we work with you? How can we help you start to build self-management skills? And what can I do to help you get there? But based on the need, not just the behavior that I'm seeing. Because that behavior is an expression of what they're feeling, but it may be very misleading, right? That we make assumptions based on what we see. So, if we're feeling frustrated, saying out loud in front of our kids, I'm feeling really frustrated right now. And that's making it difficult for me to be with you or to be doing this particular thing. I think I'm going to take 2 minutes and I'm just going to go sit by myself for a minute and take a few deep breaths. So doing things like that out loud in front of your kids, first of all, normalizes, in that case, frustration. It normalizes that people get frustrated. That's okay. That's valid. 2, that I can say that out loud. I can tell other people I'm feeling frustrated right now. And 3, here's something I'm going to try. So I'm going to self-manage. Here's something I'm going to try, to be able to take care of this. I'll give you an example about, kind of how this can work. When my son, actually, who co-founded the business with me, when he was younger, he, as I mentioned before, very, very, very social. So when he was kind of calm, cool, and collected, social, kind, empathetic, etc., when he would start to escalate in terms of level of stress and would kind of hit his breaking point, he would get very angry and not be good around people. And my initial reaction to that was to want to fix him, want to comfort him. He didn't want to be touched. He didn't want to be fixed. My husband would more naturally kind of meet him where he was and also want to yell and be angry. And we had to take a look at ourselves because all we did was escalate.
Yeah.
All we did was escalate him. And then start to, once we looked at ourselves and went, wow, what are we doing? This is not helpful. Then be able to talk to him about that. When you got really angry, here's what I did, and that didn't seem to be very helpful. So to kind of talk with him about that. And then we started to partner with him to say, let's try some different things. When you feel like that, first of all, what are the signs that you're starting to get to that point so that maybe we can help you and you can help yourself before you get to that breaking point. And if or when you get there, let's try some different things. And to this day, he still, when he starts to notice, and that's the biting of the fingernails, chewing the inside of his lip, fidgeting, his knee bouncing up and down, he now can recognize that and can usually stop himself or start to calm himself before he gets to that breaking point. And the big thing that he found worked for him, and again, he now self-manages, of course, he's older, is he says, I'll be right back.
Yeah.
And he will leave and be by himself, and sometimes it's only 2 minutes, and he's good.
What I love about that story is that I think we all have an instinct, when we're taking care of kids, to want to control them. It's just, we feel like that's our responsibility. And especially when it's out of control, we feel like we need to get it back into control. And I think you're flipping it around going, okay, I can't control this, but there's a way that I can support a better outcome. And I can connect in a different way that truly can find out how to help them in their moment of what they need and help identify that. And isn't that in the long run so much more important than just trying to, create law and order in the whole
Totally.
control, but really create that sense of shared meaning. I got to take a break. I'm going to let you save that for our next segment. But we'll be talking more about the workshops and other programs that you do and how to be dealing with childhood stress and anxiety. We know that lots is going on right now in trying to figure out what that normal is. But ideally, Connection Zoo can help kids learn how to feel well, be well, and do well. So stay with us. We'll learn more from Kirsten about the good work she's doing here on Connections Radio Show on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. Welcome back to Connections Radio Show. I'm Lori Fitz, and we're talking about how to support kids, how to talk with them about how they're feeling, how to build social and emotional skills that'll help them on their journey to be happy and healthy. And we have Kirsten Mickish, who is the co-founder and CEO of Connect Human. She's got a great new product called Connection Zoo. It's how kids can feel well, be well, and do well. And we know that childhood stress and anxiety are on the rise, and it's tough being a kid. And even when things are normal, it's tough being a kid. So then you put on top of that the normal emotional development of a kid. That's what they're going on in the world today. It's hard. But Connection Zoo is a little animal card game. I don't even call it a card game. It's an animal philosophy, I think.
There you go.
For conversation and gameplay. And it helps a parent not feel like it's so hard right now. It gives you just something else for a connection. So tell me, we were just talking about in our last segment how kids get out of control. Our natural reaction is, how do we control the situation? And we don't always do the right thing when we're trying to just create order instead of figuring out what the child needs. Tell me about that.
Yeah, well, I think one of the important philosophies that we have is connection before correction. And so again, you see a behavior and man, you want to fix it, you want to correct it, you want to stop it. But beneath that behavior is a feeling, beneath that feeling is a need. And so to be able to connect with your child first, to first send that message of I love you no matter how you're behaving and I'm here for you is so critical. And then, and when they're at a heightened level of stress, they're not in a place to learn. They don't want to have somebody help them make sense of the world when they are really stressed or really angry or have a high emotional state. So being able to help them come down and then make sense of the world in terms of any kind of correction or discipline is much, much more effective.
And you use animals, which I just love. Kids love animals. They get excited to learn about animals and the fun facts. But it's also each one of those animals are associated with a different aspect of social and emotional experience. And that's what gives it the vocabulary, helping the kids to identify what they're experiencing, giving them, an ability to look outside and not just be confused on the inside, and learning how to take care of them.
Yeah. Yeah, and we have a number of different types of cards. So the ones that we talked about in earlier segments were those associated with the feelings that we have. We also have some that are associated with calming techniques. So big-bellied seahorse breath or the snake breath, which is one that kids love a lot. We've got skills cards as well. So the three-toed skink, for example, is one that
it's just fun saying that. Say that again. What is this animal? Say it again.
The three-toed skink. Yes.
What is that?
Well, it looks like a snake with tiny little arms. So we try to use very specific and different animals so that to also give kids a view of some of the world animals that maybe they wouldn't normally see. And that one we have in our educator deck, and it's a skill around raising your hand. How do you kind of step into that place of being able to contribute, right, in the classroom. So there's skills, how to introduce yourself and how to disagree. That's a good one right now. There's a lot of space for different opinions. And then we have some cards that are more associated with thinking or kind of mindset. And so the great white shark that I mentioned earlier, in terms of keep moving forward, right? Or adaptability. This is one of my favorites. My son and I disagree on this, on whether this is cute or not. Uh-huh. But it's the water bear, which is also called a tardigrade, and it's a microscopic animal that it can literally adapt to any environment. And so we have that one associated with adaptability, and how can I develop an ability to adapt? So they help kids first be able to identify what's going on for them, normalize that it's okay to feel that, and take the time to feel that. then they have a name for it. They've got that vocabulary to say, okay, I'm feeling this. This is what I'm feeling. And then so we say, feel it, name it, and mention it. And the mention it part is all about the conversation. And that can be scary because so many of us either have been conditioned to not talk about how we're feeling, or we don't always feel like we have the words to talk about what we're feeling. And so, we talk about this kind of conversation as courageous conversation.
And with that, I'm going to have our audience stay tuned with us and learn more about the courageous conversations in the next segment. And we'll be talking about suggestions on not only how to connect with kids, but how to get the Connection Zoo. Maybe you're interested in a workshop. Learn what can be done in learning about Connection Zoo. And I'm going to encourage you to go to connectionzoo.com and know that there is a free guidebook with a 6-step process that you can get. We'll tell you more about how you get that, unless you want to go ahead and go onto the website before you come back. But stay with us, and we'll be learning more from Kirsten about how to connect and how to do it through Connection Zoo. Welcome back to Connections Radio Show. I'm Lori Fitz, your host, and we've been talking about how to connect with kids. And the Connection Zoo, which helps kids learn how to feel well, be well, and do well. And we have the co-founder and CEO of Connect Human, Kirsten Mickish, who designed this with her son. As you said in the previous segment, it was really your son's brainchild, but you jumped right on and said, yes, we need this. We need to learn how to connect with kids in really powerful ways. And you've done that by designing animal carts to help kids learn to talk about what they're feeling by learning about an animal, talking about an animal, and taking care of that animal.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And ultimately, what we know is the power of conversation with someone you trust about those things that are scary or hard can make all the difference in the world in terms of being able to help the child feel supported and ultimately to build skills so that, as they're young, we're helping them co-regulate, but ultimately we want them to be able to do that on their own. So that's what we're really trying to do is build those skills, but we need the parents to partner with the kids to make that happen.
And at the end of our last segment, we talked a little bit about the Courageous Conversation Guide. So ways to find the Connection Zoos, you can go to connectionzoo.com. And it looks like there's a conversation guide with some additional resources. Tell me a little bit about the free Courageous Conversation Guide and resource list and the discount that you're given.
Yeah. So the Courageous Conversations Guide, we basically give you a 6-step process to have those conversations. That courageous conversations are the ones you don't want to have because they take courage. Yeah, they take courage. There you go, right? And you don't have courage without fear. So there's some fear there. But they're emotionally scary, and or the relationship stakes might feel high. But when done well, you can create shared understanding and strengthen relationships and build stronger emotional bonds. And the thing that's wonderful about this process, and I'll just say the 6 steps, you can get the guide to learn more, but it's pause, invite, listen, love, open, and walk. And what's wonderful about this is 2 things. One, it spells pillow. And so if you think about the discomfort that comes with courageous conversations, you can think about kind of the comfort of your favorite pillow to kind of to squeeze and hold on to during that conversation. And
I also like that you suggest doing it at nighttime, maybe before they go to bed, so they can squeeze that pillow. And
they can actually... Yes. Yeah. Yeah, so it could be figuratively or literally holding onto that pillow. Right. And but no matter what the topic is, if there is some emotion beneath it, this can work. And so whether it is what's going on with COVID and how you or your child might be processing that, or not processing it, and need to, as the case may be.
And
or
maybe they need to
avoid murder.
Maybe they. I was going to say, along with COVID, maybe they need to go to the doctor. And and it already is stressful to go to the doctor, but what does it mean during this time? And are there additional fears that we don't know about in digging a little deeper? And I didn't mean to overtalk when you were talking, because the George Floyd is huge. It's breaking kids' hearts. I'm hearing kids say things that just rip me in two because they're scared, and we all are.
So exactly, and so this is it's always the time, but even more so now with all the world things going on around us. This is the time to really, if you haven't established a process or a practice, I should say, around conversation related to feelings and emotions and the heavy stuff that might be going on, this is the time to do it. And we also include in the guide a list of books that can prompt courageous conversations with your kids. And this is on a variety of topics, including, but not just limited to, anti-racism. So there's conversations about sexuality. There's conversations about bullying. There's a lot of different opportunities for us to have these courageous conversations. And they're important. We need to be doing that.
And I love that you're also willing to have folks be able to get a monthly newsletter from you, and that you're giving 10% off the Connection Zoo product.
Right now, yeah. For the next month, we will be doing that, yes.
Well, that's terrific. And in looking at your relationship with your son, my guess is that it's been enhanced by working together and making discoveries as you work together on this. And what a blessing that must have been, too.
It has. I mean, we've gotten to know each other now. He's a young adult, so we've developed this different adult relationship. With all family businesses, there are family dynamics that come up, but generally speaking, it has been a really awesome opportunity. I would not trade it for anything.
And maybe you've even used the animal cards in conversation about your business.
Occasionally we do, as a matter of fact.
Well, I want to make sure the audience knows how to get to your website, which is connectionzoo.com. And what is really important to think about is that these are building skills for self-image in times of stress, anxiety, and change, and it helps develop strong relationships. So, Kirsten, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your work, what you're discovering, and the opportunities for us to have a guide, have a game, have something to make it meaningful. And to learn for ourselves and to learn for our kids. So thank you. Thank you for taking the time to share with us about Connection Zoo.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, Lori.
Absolutely. And you're listening to AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota, and we're on Connections Radio Show. Next week, we're going to be having the Diversity Institute talk to us about the 4th of July and Independence Day and African Americans and Independence Day. There's sort of a mixed feeling about that. So stay with us. Join us next week on Connections Radio Show.